You probably know that landscape architects work with plants. We do and we love it, but we use them in really interesting ways that you may not have realized. And we do so much more than pick out plants. In this podcast series, we invite professionals in our field to talk about what excites them about the profession of landscape architecture and the wide variety of things they do. We will explore the many ways that landscape architects positively impact the world. Landscape architecture is a diverse practice that shapes the way we experience and move through our cities and communities, guides our responses to climate and environmental changes, brings forward our public histories, and so much more. We at the University of Colorado Denver Department of Landscape Architecture are excited that you are interested in our field. Please join us as we discover what many people don't know about landscape architecture.
We are joined today by Jesse Clark, Managing Partner and Founder of Stream. With experience teaching studios and graphics at CU Denver, Jesse brings a unique perspective on how water, land, and people interact, and how design can help solve those challenges. Hey, Jesse, thanks for joining us. On your website, you say that you're excited about your work that intertwines human experience and infrastructure for waterways, urban stormwater drainage, green infrastructure, and recreational settings like parks and greenways. A lot of people think that landscape architecture is just about plants. Can you tell us what excites you about waterway infrastructure and stormwater drainage?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. I get this question a lot, actually, and to me and to our firm, it's really about an integrated approach. I mean, we take an integrated approach to infrastructure as not only a way to solve the problems that come with infrastructure, but more or additionally as an experiential urban improvement. And so we generally like to take and integrate our technical skills with a fundamental understanding of user experience, local ecology, aesthetics, all of those things that matter to develop thoughtful and resilient, sustainable solutions that enhance both the public and the natural realms together. So we like to say that we get excited about projects that enhance human experiences with exceptional technical functionality. So those are the things that really get me excited. And we do a lot of work across, again, that public infrastructure realm, but also in recreational settings like parks and trails and greenways. But really, a lot of those natural systems are at the heart of it. What gets me excited, those waterways, storm drainage, green infrastructure, and the way that those things overlay together.
What drew you to landscape architecture initially, and when did you start?
I've always been enamored with the outdoors. I grew up in the mountains. I grew up in Fraser, Colorado, which is close to Winter Park. And I've always been interested in the outdoors, in our ecosystems. I've really always explored and been excited about the way land changes over time in response to human intervention. In particular, my attraction to water and stormwater and creeks and all of that actually began at an early age. I grew up near the Fraser River, which is effectively one fork of the headwaters of the Colorado River. And my dad was a civil engineer, so I had a lot of the technical side of engineering and those kinds of things imprinted on me at an early age. And with all that, all that said, I didn't ever have the interest in as much of the math and calculation side of engineering, but I've always been a creative problem solver. And so after I went to college, I actually got my degree in communication and advertising. And after college, I actually went back up to Winter Park, and I was working as a heavy machine operator in the area. And as I was working, I started to get curious about who was designing some of the things that I was building. And I noticed that I had opinions on how things could have been done differently to impact the quality of the environment, the quality of the surroundings, the quality of where people were living, and how nature was integrated. And so this curiosity really just got me investigating different careers. as a young kiddo, and actually after college, I actually thought for a moment that I wanted to be a building architect. And an architect friend of mine suggested there's a book called Architect with a question mark. And he said, you should read this book because it's in fact, I think it's called like I have it right here, a candid guide to the profession. And he said, you ought to read this because it really tells you what it's like to be an architect. And I recommend that book to people all the time, actually, even though it's pretty old. It's a pretty brutally honest account of what it's like to be an architect. And it started actually turning me off to being a building architect. But there was one line or one chapter or something in there. I don't know. It's been 25 years since I read it, but there was something in there that alluded to landscape architecture. And like many people, I thought, I don't want to be a landscaper. Like that's not for me. I don't really have an interest in doing that, and residential design and all of those kinds of things. But I did investigate it more, and I started to learn more about the diversity that landscape architecture offers as a career, and started to realize, kind of looping it back to my curiosities about designing infrastructure, I started to realize that landscape architects really have a much broader impact on our surroundings, how infrastructure is integrated, all of these things. And it actually just started to fuel my excitement. And I got so excited that I started talking to different people. And I actually talked to the old director, Gene at UCD, actually, Gene Bressler, who was a fantastic guy and who just really supported me in getting my education and encouraged me. And I don't know, I just kind of fell into it and started to get really excited. And that's what sent me to school. So I got my master's at UCD.
That's great. It's so cool to kind of explore those different, literature on it and understand how everyone's paths come across and what drew you there. It's always fascinating.
Yeah. It really, I mean, once I really started to understand what landscape architecture was and what the opportunities were, I think that's what got me so excited, because I do feel like if somebody once made this comparison, it's like, building architecture is really exciting and it's interesting, but in a lot of ways, a building best day is the day it's opened, right? The day that it's finished and it's opened. And often the evolution of buildings is sort of in this cyclical, either degradation or change in program, and then it gets revived in a way. Whereas the landscape sort of, the best day of a landscape is years away from when it's opened, so to speak, and it evolves and it grows and it changes, and it kind of goes back to that curiosity that I had with the way that land changes over time in response to intervention. And so I don't know, that just really, really kind of gets me excited.
Can you tell us briefly about one project that you are working on and what's exciting about it?
Yeah, I mean, there are several projects that I'm excited about that our firm is doing. But one that comes to mind that we're working on right now is a project on Westerly Creek. It's here in Denver. It's actually in Aurora. It's on the border of Aurora and Denver at the Stanley Marketplace. And this project started out, initially it was supposed to be the design of a water quality pond. And it was initially supposed to be a pretty small, discrete project to just provide water quality detention for the adjacent development. And we came at it from a different perspective of really investigating holistically how, what were the goals of the project? What were the goals of the developers that were adjacent, the city? What was important about Westerly Creek in terms of the natural system and recreational overlap opportunities that it had. And as a result, it's been a long project, but it's under construction right now. but we completely reconfigured the entire creek channel, the whole corridor, and we're creating like a 12-acre stormwater park right there next to Stanley Marketplace. And it's a really cool project because we've integrated water quality and water quality treatment on a much larger scale than they initially endeavored to do. We've completely renovated the stream channel of Westerly Creek on what was kind of the last chunk of Westerly Creek to get renovated and rehabilitated. And so we're integrating better and new habitat areas. It's a much healthier stream. We've integrated more sinuosity and lengthened the stream for stream health. There are new park features. There's a new play fields. And there's just tons of green infrastructure and sponge function that's integrated into the whole thing. And it's just really turning into a cool project. It is slated to be finished the end of the year here, or potentially early spring by the time planting's done. But it just really, I think, is illustrative of what our practice does at Stream Landscape Architecture. And I think it's also just a really cool example of what landscape architects can do in partnership with, different districts and cities and engineers. And I don't know, it's just something that I think is a pretty cool example. I'm obviously very excited about it.
Well, thanks, Jesse, for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it was really nice talking to you. Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, Something Else About Landscape Architecture. The Department of Landscape Architecture at the University of Colorado, Denver offers multiple paths of study to fit your career aspirations. We invite you to visit our website, ucdenver.edu/landscape, or follow us on Instagram at CUDenver Landscape Arch.